AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have a new open source video model which can generate videos that are up to 5 minutes long. ByteDance just dropped an AI agent that can play any video game autonomously. This AI can create infinite 3D worlds with coherent geometry. Google drops an AI that could seriously kill marketing and design agencies. We have a new open source image generator which can generate 6 images per second on just a consumer GPU. This free AI can take any video and swap out the character while applying the same motions and gestures and facial expressions. We have a really useful image editor that gives you fine control over the strength or intensity of the edit. We have some crazy humanoid robot demos and a lot more, so let's jump right in. First up, Meituan, which is a Chinese food delivery company, just released a pretty incredible video generator called LongCat Video. This is a super flexible model that can do text to video, image to video, and even video continuation, which enables you to generate videos of over minutes in length. So here are some text to video examples. As you can see, the physics of this are very good. Or here's another example. It can even execute the skateboard trick pretty accurately. It has a really good physics understanding. Here's another example, and everything looks anatomically correct. The reflections also look good. This is a very good quality model. Let's see if it can generate a dance scene with multiple dancers, and as you can see here, it's also able to get this correct. Here's a fight scene for your reference. I mean, everything is anatomically okay, but I would prefer if it was higher action. It seems like all these generations so far are in slow-mo. And yes, this can generate different styles like Disney Pixar as well as anime, as you can see here. And you can also do image to video. So if you have this video as the start frame, well, you can get these characters to dance like this. Or here's another example. Now with image to video, this is also, of course, very useful for creating product commercials like this. Now apparently you can also take an existing video and extend it further. And if you loop this a few more times, you can create videos that are minutes long. So here are some examples of a super long video for your reference. I'm going to fast forward this a bit. Now, what I suspect is going on is they're just taking the last frame of the generation and using that as the first frame of the generation. But for previous video models, this transition might not be very seamless. But at least for here, it's actually very good. You can hardly tell when the extensions occur. Here are some other examples for reference, and as you can see, everything remains very consistent. Let me fast forward this video a bit and notice the white car in the front, the appearance doesn't really change. You often get this flaw with other video models where if you extend the video too much, then the objects or the characters tend to change quite a bit. But here you can see that everything remains consistent. So here are some specs for your reference. This is actually quite a small model with only 13.6 billion parameters, and this generates 720p videos in 30 frames per second. The awesome thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've actually released the models already on Hugging Face. And then if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, this contains all the instructions on how you can download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, if you're interested in learning more, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is super cool. It's called Emu 3.5, and this is an open source multimodal model. So not only does it have like language and world understanding, like GPT, but this can also analyze and generate and edit images. So for example, if you prompt it how to sculpt a Mars Explorer figure, here's its response. So it gives you step-by-step instructions, and it's not only text, but apparently it's also able to generate an explainer image for each step. Because again, this is multimodal, so it has image generation capabilities. Or if you ask it on how to cook something, again, it's able to generate these images, and they're all very coherent. Like, this does look like it's from the same scene. Now, because this is multimodal, it can also take in images. So you can upload this starting image and get it to continue painting it, and then finally present it as a figurine toy, and here's what you get. And of course, with this tool, you can now easily create storybooks with illustrations built in. So here are just some quick examples for your reference that they showcase. And apparently they claim that this is even better than Nano Banana. So here are some image editing examples for your reference. reference. This can easily do like clothes swapping. You can even input multiple photos and generate all these references in the same output like this. And because this is essentially a language model, this also has really good world understanding, so you can also give it some visual puzzles like this, and it can solve it for you. Here, you can easily prompt it to change the perspective of a photo, or generate a professional portrait shot of someone, or even remove like handwriting or watermarks or any other obstructions from the page. And then here are some benchmark scores for your reference. In terms of these image generation and editing benchmarks, notice that for all cases, it beats the other leading image models out there, including Quinn Image Edit and GPT and Nano Banana. The awesome thing is they've released the models already. And then on this GitHub repo, if you scroll down a bit, this contains all the instructions on how to download and set this up on your computer. Anyways, there's a lot more technical info on this page, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is pretty neat. It's called WorldGrow, and this generates infinite 3D worlds that look realistic and have coherent geometry. For traditional 3D world model generators, it probably involves some Gaussian splatting, which are just kind of dots in a 3D space. So some of the time you're missing some areas, you don't really get consistent results. But here, instead of using Gaussian splatting, it basically generates 3D scenes using building blocks like Lego. So this is basically an AI that can, build these scenes using these blocks, and the result you get is a very structurally and geometrically coherent scene. So here are just a few examples for your reference. And this can also generate outdoor scenes like this. So this is great for like interior design or architecture planning. Really quickly, here's how it works. So in this section, it basically starts by collecting and preparing these scene blocks like building rooms or outdoor areas, furniture layouts, and these blocks are converted into structured 3D data that the model can understand. And then afterwards, it goes through this 3D block in painting step, which basically fills in any blanks. So this ensures that everything like the walls, the floors, the lighting all line up correctly. And then we also have this fine structure refinement step, which basically adds more realistic textures and materials and lighting to the scene. And this gives it even more detail and quality. Now, because everything is created with these 3D blocks, it stays consistent even if you expand the world. So you can potentially loop this again and again to extend your 3D world, but the original stuff would all still be there. So you can think of it as a 3D world that can grow outward as you explore. The awesome thing is if you scroll up to the top of the page and you click on this GitHub repo, here it says the code is being prepared for public release. Pre-trained weights and full training inference pipelines are planned. So it looks like they are going to release this, which is fantastic. For now, if you're interested in reading further or checking out more demos, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, Moonshot AI, which is the creator of Kimi K2, one of the best open source models out there, has just released another banger called Kimi Linear. This is what they call a hybrid linear attention model, and this is designed to improve efficiency and performance for transformer models, especially for very long context sequences. For example, if your prompt contains a ton of words, if you're trying to input a novel or an entire code base. This is pretty technical, but let me try to explain this to you in simple terms. It's basically a transformer architecture, but it uses this new component called Kimi Delta Attention. And this is basically a refined version of gated DeltaNet. And this thing is used to optimize memory use and speed up processing. You see, for the original transformer model, it features this multi-head attention block, which basically figures out the context of your prompt and how words relate to each other. The thing is, the calculations for this step increases pretty much exponentially as your input length increases. So if you have a super long prompt, it's going to require an insane amount of compute to process it compared to if you just input a short sentence. So this makes it very inefficient if you need to input a very long prompt. But for Kimi Linear, instead of that multi-head attention step, they use this Kimi Delta Attention, which looks like this, and this basically mixes in a linear attention mechanism, which doesn't have to do all those complex calculations. And because of that, it significantly reduces the computation and memory required to process very long prompts. So that's basically the key component of this, and here it says it's able to reduce the memory needed from that component by up to 75%. making it way more efficient. It's also 6 times faster in decoding or basically generating your output compared to traditional full attention models. So here's a chart showing how much more efficient Kimi Linear is. So the y-axis is basically the decoding time. The lower this value, the faster it is. And then Kimi Linear is this blue line at the bottom. So notice that even for a really long context length of 1 million tokens, which is like equivalent to a novel or a small or medium-sized code base, it's able to process this information like 6.3 times faster compared to traditional methods. Now, as with their other Kimi models, the awesome thing is they've open sourced this already. So all the models are on Hugging Face for you to download. Notice that these are 48 billion parameters with only 3 billion active parameters, so you could potentially run this on some higher end consumer grade GPUs. And the context length is 1 million tokens, which is huge. For your reference, for the top AI models out there, almost none of them could reach 1 million tokens. They're all under like 500,000. So this Kimi Linear allows you to fit way more information into your prompt, and it's able to process this way faster than traditional models. Anyways, if you scroll down a bit on this GitHub page, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. If you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Now, a few weeks ago, I featured this image editor by NVIDIA called ChronoEdit. This is basically NVIDIA's version of Nano Banana. So this also allows you to edit any image using a text prompt. For example, we can turn this into a figurine like this, or we can get her to play guitar like this, or we can rotate the pose of this character, and here's what we get. Or we can change this food into a carrot. Now, the neat thing about this is actually built upon a video model. So it kind of thinks through how to edit an image using a video. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say you have this input photo and you want to change this into a professional portrait. Well, here's how it imagines the edit would play out. You can see that instead of just generating an image, what it does is it actually generates a short video of this edit happening across time. Or here's another example. If you want to turn this image into a figurine, well, here's actually its editing process. So you can see it's actually generating this edit using a short video. Or if you want to mix these two paints together, here's how it would imagine this to play out. Anyways, I already went over this a few weeks ago, so I won't repeat too much here, but this week they finally released the model for you to use. So if you click on this button here, it takes you to their GitHub repo, and as you can see, they've released the model this week. So here are all the instructions on how you can download and run this locally on your computer. Notice that it does require at least 34 gigabytes of VRAM to run this. In addition to the GitHub repo, they've also released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out online. So here's what the interface looks like. Let me try to input this image, and then for the prompts, let's add a small cute mouse sitting inside the cup taking a bath. So let's click Start Generation. And here's what we get. Anyways, all the links plus more examples are on this page, so I'll link to this in the description below if you want to read further. In other news, we have a quick update for Sora 2. So they've just released this character cameos feature. This allows you to basically insert any fictional character into your video. So this can be like a pet or an object, or basically any non-realistic character. So how this works is you basically just need to upload a short video of this character or object, and then you can create a cameo with it. This doesn't work with realistic humans, in which case you'll need to create a human cameo like before, where you'll actually need to do a selfie video and follow its instructions like look up or look left and then speak out some numbers. And this is, of course, to verify that you are that person and it has permission to generate deepfakes of you. But for character cameos, or basically fictional characters or pets, apparently this is not necessary, so you can just upload a short video of it. But that's another cool feature where you can insert these fictional characters into your videos. In other news, OpenAI also announces Aardvark. This is what they call their agentic security researcher. So this is basically an AI agent that can find, verify, and help fix software vulnerabilities, which is, of course, very important to prevent hacking and loss of sensitive data. So first, Aardvark starts by analyzing the code repository, and then it scans the code base for any issues or vulnerabilities. Once it does find a vulnerability, it tries to reproduce this in a separate sandbox environment to confirm these vulnerabilities. Once this is verified, it will use OpenAI Codex, which is OpenAI's coding agent, to basically generate and suggest a fix. This fix or patch is then basically passed on to a human for review. And then after the human approves it, then it's submitted as a pull request to be merged back into the repo. And apparently this is very effective. So here they claim that OpenAI has been using Aardvark for several months now, and it has identified 92% of known and synthetically introduced vulnerabilities. So this is a very powerful tool that can help you improve the security of your software, all autonomously. Next, you might be wondering, how do you access this? So here it says they're currently inviting select partners to join the private beta. So if your organization or open source project is interested in joining, you can apply via this link. Anyways, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below if you want to read further. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Emergent, the sponsor of this video. This is an autonomous AI agent that helps you create pretty much anything you imagine, including full research reports or full stack apps. All you need to do is prompt it. So for example, I can get it to build a full stack habit tracking app, and here's what I get. The interface looks beautiful. Let's try to create a habit, and then let's press create. And then you can see I've built all these habits over here. And then we can create a stack, let's call this morning routine, and then drag and drop some habits over here. Everything just works beautifully. Or let's get it to create a comprehensive financial analysis report of NVIDIA. And here is what we get, complete with performance stats and financial metrics, as you can see here. Or let's get it to create a stunning, fully functional landing page for a marketing agency called BrandRamp. And here is what we get. Everything is responsive and it looks beautiful. It even includes a contact us form as well as pricing cards. As you can see, even if you're not technical, Emergent just automatically handles everything for you, including the backend and front end, and everything just works. With Emergent, now you can easily bring any idea into reality. Try it today via the link in the description below. Also this week, we have some slightly good news for AMD users. They've just released essentially a real-time image generator which can generate 6 images per second on just a consumer AMD GPU. This is called Nitro-E, and this is quite a tiny model with only 304 million parameters. It's not even a billion, so it's very efficient and lightweight. And because of this, it's relatively easy and cheap to train and run this. So for example, here it says it only takes 1.5 days to train this on 8 AMD GPUs. And if you use a single AMD Instinct GPU, this can output almost 19 images per second. Now this is still quite a high-end GPU, so if instead you use this consumer-grade Strix Hailuo, it can still generate a 512 pixel image in only 0.16 seconds. So that's roughly around 6 images per second on a consumer-grade GPU. Now, unfortunately, the quality isn't great, and these are the only images that they've showcased. Honestly, this looks worse than like Stable Diffusion 1.5 from years ago. But note that these are 512 by 512, and again, the advantage of this is you can generate like 6 images in real time. So here they're really prioritizing speed and efficiency over quality. But here are just some examples that they provided. Notice that the details are pretty bad. Here are some comparisons with other image generators for your reference. Here the x-axis is the number of images per second, and so you can see this new Nitro-E is all the way over here. It can definitely output the most images per second. Anyways, if you scroll to the bottom of this page, notice here that they've already released this model on Hugging Face. So this is open source and it's really tiny. It's less than 4 gigabytes, so almost anyone with a consumer-grade GPU can run this, even if it's AMD. And then over here, if you click on this GitHub repo, here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, Google continues to release a ton of really cool and free AI tools. This one is called Pomelli, and it's really useful in helping you design marketing creatives. This has the potential to completely replace marketing and design agency. So here's how it works. You first enter your website and it'll basically extract your font, your colors, your branding, etc. And then it'll use it to generate campaign ideas for you. It will also create product photos, social media posts, and other creatives all automatically for you. I mean, you don't really have to do anything. Let me choose a random company like Ember, which sells mugs, and then I'm going to paste the website into here for it to scan and extract the branding and the style, etc. So here it says it takes about 5 minutes to scan and determine everything. Afterwards, here are all the things it has extracted. It has extracted the fonts, the color scheme, plus all the images on the homepage. So let's click looks good, and then here is where I can prompt it to generate any campaign I want. So for example, let's try something like a Facebook campaign for Black Friday, up to 50% off. Let's click generate. So it gives me a few options for the heading and subheading. Let's go for this one. And then afterwards, it proceeds to generate the images to use for the post. You can also select to add additional creatives yourself over here. And here is what we get. How insane is that? Without me having to do anything or manually create the design myself, it created these super sleek and beautiful looking posters or designs that I can use for my marketing campaign. Next, I can select this one and then edit the colors further. So for example, for the heading, I can change the color to whatever I want. Notice that down here, it already very conveniently extracted my branding colors. So I can just select this orange color here, and that's what I get. So, this has the potential to not only kill marketing or creative agencies, but even Canva. Why manually do stuff in Canva when you can just prompt an AI to automatically make the design for you in seconds? Anyways, if you're in marketing or you want to generate some creatives for your business, definitely check out Google Pomelli. It's completely free to use, and I guarantee you'll find this super helpful. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. In other news, we have a new AI video tool which is super powerful. It's called Mocha, and this allows you to swap out the character in any existing video while applying the same motions and gestures and facial expressions. So here are some examples for your reference. On the left is the original video, and on the right is the new video with the character swapped. And as you can see, the character replacement is really good. Even if there are subtitles overlaid on the video, the AI is still able to swap out the character while keeping the subtitles intact. Now, I featured another really similar tool a few weeks ago called OneAnimate, which can also replace characters in an existing video. But here, they claim that Mocha is even better quality and higher fidelity than OneAnimate. So for example, here are some comparisons for your reference. Let's say we want to replace this guy with Spider-Man. Notice that Mocha, which is on the bottom right, preserves the background and the overall lighting a lot better than the other two competitors. Here's another lighting test for your reference. And again, Mocha is just a lot better at handling the original lighting and white balance and background compared with the other top methods like Kling and OneAnimate. It's also way better at preserving the look of your input character. Let's say we want to swap this guy out for a dude in a mask. Notice that OneAnimate was not able to handle this very well, but Mocha is able to do the character swap while correctly transferring the appearance of the new character. The awesome thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've actually released everything already. So the models are all on Hugging Face, and then if you click on this GitHub repo, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Plus, it looks like the open source community has already created a workflow for this in Comfy UI. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a full tutorial on this. I might do one if there's enough interest. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below if you want to read further. Next up, Kuavo, which is the team behind Kling, one of the top video generators out there, just published this paper which completely reinvents the standard image and video generation model. So here they introduce this SVG, or self-supervised representation for visual generation, which is basically a model without this VAE step. You see, when you're generating images or videos, often you need to use a VAE to first encode or compress your input into latent space. This is like a simplified summary of your input, and this latent space makes it easier for diffusion models to work with. And then after it generates its output, it then goes through this VAE again to basically decode this from latent space back into an image or a video that you and I can see. However, this VAE is actually not very good. Here, they claim that VAEs suffer something called semantic entanglement. So it's actually quite hard for it to conceptually tell things apart like dog, cat, and car. Here are different color-coded objects labeled within these VAEs, and you can see they're all cluttered together, so it's really hard for the AI to actually distinguish between certain objects. However, if you don't use a VAE and if you use another tool called Dino, then it segments everything and it's able to distinguish between different objects much more accurately. So here's how this new SVG model works. It basically removes the VAE component of the diffusion model, and instead of the VAE, it uses Dino, which is an existing visual model, and then it also uses this residual encoder, which is basically a small extra encoder that adds fine details. And so after you plug it through the model, it's still able to create high-quality images without the need of VAE. And not only is this better at just world understanding and distinguishing between different objects, but it's also up to 62 times faster in training and 35 times faster in inference. How crazy is that? So, right now we're using stuff like Flux or Qwen or Stable Diffusion. Imagine if you can speed up your generations by like 35 times. Plus, it generates high fidelity and high quality images. So here are some of their sample generations. Notice the quality is pretty awful because these are just 256 by 256. I would prefer if they could show us some higher resolution images, but here are the images that we got from this paper so far. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've released the code for this already. So if you click on this GitHub repo, this contains all the instructions on how you can actually install this and try this out on your computer. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. In humanoid robot news, 1X Technologies just unveiled their Neo 1X robot. This is a humanoid robot designed for home use. So it's supposed to automate everyday chores and provide personalized assistance for you in your home. This is supposed to have basic autonomous features like opening doors or carrying items or turning lights on and off, etc. Now here's the thing, it's priced at $20,000 or a $500 per month subscription, and it's available for pre-order. And they plan to deliver this by next year. Now here's the thing, even though in this ad they claim that some of the stuff is autonomous, it seems like everything in the demo is not autonomous, contrary to what they claim. So a reporter makes it clear that so far everything filmed here currently relies heavily on remote teleoperation by a human. In other words, a human in the background is actually controlling its action. So all these demonstrations, including folding clothes, opening doors, or loading them into a dishwasher, these were all operated by a human using a VR headset and controllers. And that reporter from the Wall Street Journal, I believe, points out several limitations. Neo still struggles to perform even basic tasks, taking like an eternity to complete simple chores, and it even nearly falls over. So currently there's little to no evidence that this robot could just work independently in the home. Everything it does requires a human to actually operate it remotely. So honestly, at least in my opinion, this announcement is mostly hype. I'm not sure why they're even making this available to pre-order if they're not even able to showcase its autonomous abilities yet. In other humanoid robot news, I think this demo is way more impressive. So we have the Unitree G1 robot, which is only like 35 kilograms, pulling a 1400 kilogram car. So this robot is trained by an algorithm from this paper, which is called THOR, towards human level whole body reactions. This THOR algorithm is kind of a stretch. So I see the T, I see the H, but where's the O? Anyways, back to the video, it's actually very impressive how the robot is kind of able to adjust its posture to maximize the efficiency of the pulling. Like, it's actually using all its weight and strength and the friction of its feet on the ground to pull this car that's way heavier than it. Now, actually, physically speaking, this isn't too hard of a task. That's because the car has wheels and it's probably placed in a neutral gear. So because of wheels, it's not like you're actually lifting or pulling 1,400 kilograms. But nevertheless, this still is very impressive how this robot is able to coordinate with its entire body to pull the car and also adjust its movements as it's pulling. Anyways, that's the demo, and here's the paper. I'll link to this in the description below if you want to read further. Next up, we have a new robot demo. This time it's called the Kuavo 5 by Leju Robotics. And here are some stats. You can actually swap its limbs, including its legs. So you can swap it with like feet or wheels, so it can just roll around. This has a battery life of over 8 hours and a max load capacity of 20 kilograms. Now actually, originally Kuavo 5 was designed for industrial settings such as assembly lines, logistics, and manufacturing, but now they're also designing it for home use as well. And this is integrated with Huawei's Pangu model, so think of this as its brain. This is an AI model that lives inside its head, and this is used for perception and decision making and control. So that's a new robot company to put on your radar. Next up, this AI is pretty cool. It's called IGGT, which stands for Instance Grounded Geometry Transfer, and this basically takes a set of multiple images. These can be taken at random angles of a scene, and you would plug it through this AI, and it's able to reconstruct not only the entire 3D mesh of the scene, but it's also able to actually understand and reconstruct the 3D shape of everything in the scene. Plus, it's also able to actually identify and segment objects in the scene. So what you get from that is not only can you generate an interactive 3D scene from it, but you can also prompt it to select a certain item in the scene, such as a cabinet or the yellow counter, or the toaster, and because it understands objects and shapes in the scene, it's able to accurately identify and segment the object that you prompted. So here's why this is useful. For previous methods that generate 3D scenes with multiple photos, it can only generate 3D scenes. It doesn't really have semantic understanding of all the objects and the shapes within the scene. But for IGGT, it predicts and generates everything together in a single unified transformer model. And if you compare this with other similar 3D reconstruction models, note here that this new IGGT is the only model capable of simultaneously achieving reconstruction, understanding, and tracking. And if you look at these benchmarks, on average, they outperform all these other models across all these different metrics. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, here it says the dataset is coming soon. And then if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, it looks like they are going to release the codebase and the pre-trained models for this. So stay tuned. For now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, ByteDance releases a really cool agent called Game THORs. And unlike previous video game agents, this one is designed to play video games with all the inputs that a normal human would see. So for example, it's able to see the gameplay and analyze everything. It's able to think and plan, plus it's able to control the keyboard and mouse inputs all in just one model. Now, after training this with a ton of video game data, it basically has learned how to autonomously play any video game. Like, it doesn't need to know the rules beforehand. And by the way, this can play video games in real time. So it's lightweight and efficient enough to see the gameplay and then process all the visuals and text and then think through what to do next and then execute the keyboard and mouse controls in real time. And then here are some benchmark scores for your reference. So this new Game THORs even beats GPT-5 and other top models in open world tasks in Minecraft, as well as first-person shooter games, as well as these web games and simulator games. So here is Game THORs in action. It's able to figure out how to do all of these tasks in Minecraft all by itself. And even if you feed it a game it has never seen before, it's able to eventually figure things out and play it very well. This includes racing games or flight simulator games or first-person shooter games like Doom. So Game THORs is a generalist AI agent that can learn and adapt to any game you give it, even if it has never seen this game before in its training data. Now, of course, the goal for all of this isn't just to get an AI to play video games. I think the end goal is to apply this to robotics in real life. So let's say you have a humanoid robot and it needs to figure out how to do a task that it has never seen before in its training data. Well, traditionally, this would be pretty much impossible to do so because it just doesn't know how to generalize and do things it has never seen before. But with this new game THORs, if we can actually translate this over and apply this to real-world robotics, then this would be a game changer. And this could make robots a lot more capable and autonomous. If you want to learn more about the nitty-gritty details, they've released an entire technical paper on this. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is also pretty useful. It's called Group Relative Attention Guidance, or GRAG for short, and this is kind of like a nano banana in that you can edit an image with a text prompt. However, instead of just applying that edit at 100%, this allows you to apply the edit as a gradient, so you can actually control the strength or intensity of the edit. So here are some examples. Let's say you want to change the color of this rose to blue. Well, instead of just changing this completely to blue, you can actually adjust the guidance strength. So here is applying the edit a bit. Here it's making it a bit more blue, and then here even a bit more. And then finally, here is the max strength. Or here's another example. Let's say you want to replace the surfboards with flowers. Let me drag this guidance slider a bit so you can see how this applies the edit incrementally. And as you can see, it does gradually transform the top into flowers. Now, if I drag the strength to the maximum value, notice that it also changes the appearance of the car and the background. I'll talk more about this in a second. Anyways, here we are turning the bird into a crochet bird. So if I adjust the slider, notice that it gradually changes the composition of the bird to crochet. Or let's turn this cat into a silver sculpture. And as you can see, as I adjust the strength of this, it gradually changes the cat into silver more and more. Now here's another important strength of this. Remember here when I showed you that if I set this all the way to max strength, then it also changes the car, it changes the background, and this is not ideal. But in fact, that's what most image editors do. If you try to get these birds into origami birds, because it's just automatically tuned to make the edit at maximum strength, not only does it change the birds to origami, but it also changes the background. However, if we apply this GRAG tool and we set it to like 70 or 80% strength, then it's able to apply the edit while also preserving the background and the rest of the scene. Or here's another example. By the way, notice that here we are using this image editor called Step 1 Edit. So if we prompt it to change the cake to square and we use Step 1x Edit, here is what we get. So notice it also kind of changes the look of the cake as well. This is not ideal, but if you add in GRAG, it's able to preserve the overall look of the original cake as well. Or instead of Step 1x Edit, let's use Qwen Image Edit, which is like the best open source image editor you can use right now. However, if you get it to replace the dogs in this photo with rabbits, notice that it also kind of changes the look of the flowers and the grass in the background, plus the colors are slightly different. However, if we add GRAG on top of this, then notice that it's able to preserve the grass in the background a lot better. Or here's another example where if we change this apple to red, Qwen Image Edit already does a pretty good job, but it's missing a lot of the original details from the apple. However, if we add GRAG to this and we set the strength to something like 80%, then it also is able to preserve the original details of the apple. So those are just some examples for your reference. If you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a GitHub repo, and if you scroll down a bit, it looks like they are planning to release a Hugging Face space for you to use this online, plus they are planning to release the code for this. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, we have some crazy news from Udio, which is one of the leading AI music generators out there. So they've just announced a partnership with Universal Music Group, and things are not looking good. You see, this partnership involves new licensing agreements that significantly impact users of Udio. Let me first give you some context of the deal. So I believe Udio had a copyright infringement lawsuit from Universal Music Group, who's of course suing AI music companies like Udio for potentially copying the work of musicians. Now, this week, Udio announced that they settled this lawsuit with UMG, and the result is they formed a strategic partnership that involves licensing agreements. However, because of this, Here they say, starting today, downloads from the platform will be unavailable. This means users can no longer download their generations from Udio. Now, this was super sudden and the users weren't given any advance notice or any time to download their tracks, so obviously this caused quite a lot of outrage. So then a few days afterwards, Udio posted an update on Reddit, and here they say that starting Monday, November 3rd, for 48 hours, all users are able to download their existing songs. But after this time, no one is able to download their generations from Udio anymore. So honestly, I think this is quite a sad announcement. This basically represents the death of Udio, which was once one of the best AI music generators out there. But I mean, if it's now controlled and regulated so tightly via this new partnership, then honestly, it's hard for users to create anything without being subject to a ton of copyright infringements. Anyways, that's the news we have so far. If you're using Udio and you have some generations which you'd like to download, do it within 48 hours after Monday, or you might not be able to download this ever again. If you're interested in reading the details, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. Now, while the fate of Udio might be uncertain and we might have lost one of the top AI music generators right now, worry not, because we have another contender this week. So Minimax just released Music 2.0. This is essentially the same thing, so you can create songs with just a text prompt, plus you can input optional lyrics. So I'll link to this in the description below. It's basically in Minimax's platform, and over here you can select this new Music tab. And here is where you can input a prompt describing the song you want to create. And then down here you also have the option of adding lyrics. But for me, I'm just going to leave this empty and get it to automatically generate the lyrics for me. For my first prompt, I'm going to try a pop ballad song about a long distance relationship with emotional lyrics and a catchy chorus, and here's what we get.
Streetlights blur outside my pain. Another night of silent rain. My phone lights up a distant star. No matter where you are, your voice breaks through the static hum. Wishing you were here with me now. Another time zone pulls us wide, nowhere for my heart to hide. Oh, these miles between us, a cruel and silent test. But every pixel shows your face, my love won't ever rest. We built this bridge across the blue, a promise strong and true. My heart beats only for you, waiting for the day with you. I trace your smile in photographs, reliving all our laughing past.
The quality is actually not bad. The vocals are pretty realistic, the instruments are also very consistent, plus the melody of the verses are also consistent, so we don't get like a completely different song after the chorus. However, in terms of the melodic composition, I would say it's quite easy to tell that this was AI generated, especially the lyrics, but then again, I told it to come up with the lyrics itself. I'm sure if I inputted my own lyrics, then it might sound a bit more natural. Nevertheless, this is not bad. And then here are some of their examples demonstrating the quality of its vocals and the instruments. It's actually pretty good.
Summit, I reached the summit. I'm the peak with the fire they all want from it. Spill a bit of my glow like a comet. I ain't worried about hills, you just plummet. Summit, I reached the summit. Obsidian shards around my throat, now they run from it. Ain't no wonder why the valleys are run from it. I'm away from the summit. I know what I hope.
You can also take one voice and get it to sing songs of various different genres. So here's an example of the same voice, first singing a blues song, then it switches to rock, then it switches to electronic.
All I want is loving you and fire, fire. morning. Fire, fire, fire. Never thought that I'd outlast the storm, but I'll reach the shore and I'm watching from the shoreline. I see the salt on your rails and I feel so helpless and gale. So ship, there's no need to hide.
Anyways, those are just some examples. Notice that it costs 300 credits to create a song, but once you sign up for free, you get like over 10,000 credits for you to try out some generations, as you can see here. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. Speaking of Minimax, they are absolutely on fire this week. So not only did they release this music generator, but they also released Hailuo 2.3, which is like one of the best AI video models out there in terms of physics and world understanding. Really quickly, as you can see from my comparisons, it just handles these high action shots or physically tricky scenes a lot better than some of the other leading video models out there like THOR 3.1 or Sora 2. Now, I already did a full review video on it this week, so see this video for a full review. But in addition to Hailuo 2.3, here's what I think is the biggest thing they released this week, which is Minimax M2. They've actually open sourced this model, so you can download the model weights and run this locally or on-prem and fine-tune it however you want. Minimax M2 is currently the #1 open source AI model out there. Its intelligence is very similar to the other leading closed models out there, including GPT-5 High and Grok 4, and it even beats Gemini 2.5 Pro. Now again, I did a full review video on Minimax M2 already. I'm not going to repeat too much here, so if you want to learn more, see this video for a full review. Next up, we have a new tool by Stability AI called Foley Control, and this allows you to basically input a silent video and it would generate the audio for that. If you've been generating videos with AI, you should know that most video models out there don't have sound. So this is potentially a very useful tool for you to add sound in your generations. Here are some examples. So as you can see, it's even able to detect when the actions occur in the video and time all the sound effects correctly. Or here's another example. It seems to be able to detect the action in the video and time everything very well. Here's another example. Again, it's able to track his footsteps very well. Really quickly, here's the architecture behind it. They use what is called a frozen latent audio model, and here is where you can input your video and a text prompt describing the audio or an audio sample, and the key here is it goes through these cross-attention bridges, which basically help the system synchronize the sound effects with the video. Now, since this is from Stability AI, I was expecting them to release this, but it doesn't look like they've released any code for this yet. Right now, we only have this technical paper and this project page. But if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.